Hello. So I have another installment of a lesson from a recent QHHT session, quantum healing hypnosis technique session. And I just wanted to share it because, again, I got a response from a client question that um, really was interesting, thought provoking, and has got me kind of thinking about different things in my life, kind of, comparing and contrasting kind of things so I can maybe have additional perspective about things that I've experienced. So, this question was from a recent client, like I said, and their question had to deal with the two major kind of accidents or incidents that have occurred in their life. Um, Not tragic, but definitely life altering events. So, this person had a kind of perception about why certain things had happened and kind of like the purpose of these accidents. And this, so they wanted to ask the questions in their session to be able to just validate their hypothesis as to why these things had occurred. And the response was not what they had thought their hypothesis was. So their hypothesis was refuted. So basically, there were two incidences, one in childhood and then one in adulthood, and they just wanted to know like why the event happened. They had this perception about, maybe not pursuing a certain occupation or not really being sure about a certain activity. So this thing happened to change the course of their life. So it was kind of like, oh, I was on the wrong path and this thing happened so I could get on the right path. So the answer is kind of that's what happened. But really, what it was, so the answer for their higher self, for both of their incidences, was that they needed to listen more to their intuition. So they had wanted to kind of develop certain abilities, and their guides had put them in situations where they didn't have a choice but to listen to their intuition or focus on certain kind of abilities. So, kind of our sixth sense, if you will. Um, and more specifically, if we're thinking about kind of our clairs, like clairvoyance and clairaudience and clairsentience, etc., they specifically, in one instance, were being tested to not rely on their physical sight, but their clairvoyance. So there was an accident, and it was an invitation to develop clairvoyance and other clairs or senses, if you will. And then the second kind of incident that happened was that they were being called to literally just follow their intuition. So there was an accident, but before the accident happened, they had a bad feeling. Like, I know I shouldn't be doing this. Oh, something bad could happen, but I'm going to do it anyway because, X person needs my assistance. And lo and behold, something bad happened. Nothing tragic, but something bad did happen. So the answer from the higher self was that it was a reminder, hard reminder, to listen to the intuition because they consciously had a bad thought and ignored it. So I thought it was really interesting that the answer was to rely on intuition, to rely on the senses, and to not develop in a way that they had expected to develop. So this leads me kind of to another question that I get often, and a question that a lot of clients ask kind of in these types of sessions. But how do I develop my psychic abilities? How do I develop my intuition? How do I understand and communicate with my guides and, whoever is talking to me? How do I strengthen that? And I think this kind of reiterates the answer that we're always receiving guidance. Not only are we always receiving guidance, but it's coming in multiple different ways, and we have expectations about how that should happen. So therefore, we miss a lot of the communication and the guidance and kind of those signs and symbols that are actually taking place. So what I would say is, if you are looking for some sort of kind of strengthening of your intuition or, development of psychic senses, I would really drop all expectations about how it could, should, feel, look, act, whatever. That's the part that I've seen that gets us in trouble. And to know that it's already happening, it's just kind of tuning the radar, making sure that we're not having those projections or the expectations about how it should look or feel, and paying attention to all of the ways that we can receive information. So whether it's sight or sound or taste or smell or feeling or anything else, there's all sorts of ways that information can come in. And like this client's answers, they come in different forms. So whether it's an accident, whether it is something we desperately wanted to happen and it didn't, is it your sixth sense trying to kick into action and tell you that something else is better, or you're on the wrong track and not the right track? So I think it's an invitation to, one, increase awareness. Always, awareness is good. But two, to ask questions and then be open to those answers of how the information can flow to you. So again, I thought this was really interesting because, this person had a hypothesis about these life events, and the answer was not at all what they thought it would be. Kind of the reasoning behind these events. They wanted to develop kind of intuition and psychic abilities, and indirectly, that's kind of what they got, unintentionally, but that's what they got. That's kind of how the guides were communicating to them. So it can happen a multitude of ways, and we have to be open. So I hope that's helpful. I hope it makes you think a little bit. I know it's made me think, and I'm trying to reserve projections and expectations about certain life events and going back to think about things that have happened to me and maybe why they happened a certain way, because I know I've had some perceptions, but I'm okay being wrong. So I'm going back to the drawing board for myself. So hope that helps.